On this episode of AV Week, we wrap up InfoComm. InfoComm Connected happened virtually this year, but we still talk with Mike Blackman and Dave Labuscus. Also have a conversation with Corey Schaefer, Matt Scott, and Jeremy Caldera, getting the perspective of exhibitors as well as presenters and integrators. All that and more next on AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is AV Week, episode 461, recorded Friday, June 19th, 2020. Hope takes courage.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by Atlas IED, innovative audio solutions for every business environment.
This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of audio-visual news and information. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. Typically, this Friday, I would be joined by a plethora of audio-visual royalty and smarts and everything. We should be in Las Vegas. We should be surrounded by people. There should be a crowd of people in front of me, and Matt Scott should be giving me crap for something or other. That last part's still going to happen because he's on this show. But
yeah, like right now.
Yeah, right now.
Right now.
This is InfoComm Week. And typically what we would do is we would have a cavalcade of folks come through and say, how was your week? What did you learn? What new products did you see? We're still going to do that because InfoComm still happened, although virtually. Typically, I would start with two of my favorite people in the entire AV world, Mike Blackman and Dave Labuscus. Still going to do that. So to kick this off, Mr. Dave Labuscus, who was our host this week, and Mike Blackman. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me, Tim.
Absolutely, sir. So let's kick this off. Dave, you started your keynote for InfoComm, talked about not a new normal. And I was on a couple of sessions and I said, I don't like the new normal. I don't like the pivot and something else. I don't remember what I said. You said this is not a new normal. It's a path to a better normal. What do you mean by that?
I don't know who it was that said this, and I should have looked it up because I've probably quoted him 1,000 times, but never let a good crisis go to waste.
Rahm Emanuel.
Thank you. There's going to be a new normal, and that's going to happen passively. It reminds me a bit also of a quote that the woman at our Avixa Women's Breakfast presented, which was that optimism is easy, hope takes courage. What I meant by it is that as we move on beyond this, we should be looking at how do we create a better world. And if we accept the fact that the audiovisual industry is about connecting people to people and about creating experiences, then we should acknowledge that we have something to contribute to making this world a better place.
All right. You in late March, early April, you and I sat down. Probably one of the hardest days of your tenure, if I had to guess, when you said that we're not doing InfoComm this year in person. At the time, you didn't know what you were going to do, and we talked about that. And 2 weeks later, you helped us at AVNation kick off our commercial Learn From Home event. And at that keynote and that talk, you said, we're doing this. We're doing InfoComm Connected. When everything settles and you know, the numbers that you know, Joey Lloyd gave me this morning was you had 20,000 registrations, right? Which if you look at, you know, people are going to look at numbers. I would still say that that's a pretty significant number for, you know, 2.5 months of preparation and promotion. 40% of those folks were international. You guys purposely catered to folks internationally as well as domestically in the States. Over 1,000 exhibitor meetings. Walk me through and talk to Dave Labuscus back in early April. And would you tell him that this is a success, that everything that he did from the 1st of April until now is you know, we hit the nail?
I don't think there's ever been a period that I've talked to Dave Labuscus of the past and said everything you've done was a success.
Okay.
um, uh, but I think, and this was not my success. This was the success of the industry, the success of our exhibiting partners, the success of my team. The what they delivered. You're right. I mean, the timing. Of course, I remember March 30th, and you and I having a conversation probably about this time that afternoon.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was a bad. That was a tough time, but what they created and what they delivered so far exceeded my expectations, and they did something that's never been done before. Really, a large scale international virtual trade show. There's been lots of experiments, but nothing that's ever been done like that before. Rochelle, who runs our expo, Rochelle Richardson, was talking about the fact that now everybody is an expert in the room, because we know more than anybody else does about doing it, because nobody else has done it. We certainly aren't experts, though, as far as knowing everything we need to know. My hope for this show was that we would be able to provide a platform for the exhibitors that depend upon InfoComm for the marketplace it creates, and that we would be able to hold the spot in everybody's mind and calendar for InfoComm, and that we would break even, because obviously we're in an environment where we couldn't be in a situation where we're just throwing money at problems. None of us can be doing that anymore, right? We succeeded on all of those, exceeded actually, I think, on all of those. Most importantly, if you remember, I just said hold a place in people's mind and calendar for InfoComm. What I took out of this experience, what I experienced yesterday evening during the happy hour and throughout Twitter, wasn't actually about the mind and calendar of InfoComm. It was about the heart of our association, and I saw that for 3 days, and yeah, I just am overwhelmed actually by that, and by the strength of our community, and I am filled with hope.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would take a slight issue with you, because just like people do with me, you are the head of that organization and the head of that team. So their success reflects from you. So you also had a hand in that. So, Mike, I want to bring you on this, and there's a reason I enjoy having Mike and Dave on together. It's one of the fringe benefits of being me and being at the head of this organization. I get to pick who I talk to. These two guys are off of the camera, off the mic, are some of the, seriously, together, they are an absolute blast. And together, professionally, they are a team to be reckoned with. Integrated Systems Europe, the biggest trade show in the world for AV. VIXA owns half of it. These two guys, along with Tabitha O'Connor from CEDIA, last time we were all physically together was at the ISE, right? Yeah. Mike, you guys put a release out this morning talking about you're already at 55,000 square meters for 2021. You're already up above. You've got 9 dedicated areas, including content creation, which I think is fantastic. Marry that with digital signage and digital out of home. You've got 14 conferences going on that week. This is all as we all move to Barcelona. Yep. Obviously, none of us knew at the end of the middle of February what was going to happen, what was going to transpire. You've watched this, right? You've watched your cohorts on the AVIXA side. What did you take away from this week? And you guys are already gearing up and making plans for Barcelona, which is in February. What did you take away from this week that you guys are already able to be putting into place?
I mean, the first thing I can say is hats off to the InfoComm team. Rochelle and the team have done a great job, and everybody else in the rest of the organization, with the education, the keynotes. Dave, I saw yours. Everything was just in such a short space. To put something like this together, I think is phenomenal. I say, well done, really. And I count myself as being very, very lucky that team have been the guinea pigs. They're the ones who have done the pioneering and are making it easier for me, because I would just take the best parts of that and use it. It's a great experience to let someone else go first, and especially when it's in your own organization and those people are willing to actually share those experiences and help you to be better. One thing that's always happened between ISE and InfoComm, InfoComm was always our big brother. So we learned always a lot and we copied things. And then we started to innovate. And then InfoComm started to copy us and make it better. And then we copy what they did and make it better. So we have this evolution of ideas happening on a 6-monthly basis that just helps us both just to deliver the best trade shows in the world for our business. So, what we're taking away are a lot of ideas. We've seen some of the things that we said, wow, we definitely have to do that. Somewhere we say, okay, we need to understand a little bit more what the intentions were and what the results have been. We haven't been on the inside of looking at everything. We've logged in as attendees to experience it, to actually say, okay, we need to understand the attendee point of view to say they're getting value out of this. So, what we've taken away is that this can be done. And I think 20,000 registrations, I think, is an absolute phenomenal figure. If they'd gone away with half of that, I said they did well. But 20,000 is just absolutely unbelievable. So really well done on that.
Absolutely. And one of the things is you mentioned, getting the feedback from folks. They were able to show you, the good parts, but also the scars that they've gotten over the last 2 months, and some of the drawbacks. I'm going to ask, start with you on this, Mike, but also with you, Dave. These two shows are not the only ones that either of you do, right? Both of you produce other shows throughout the world. We're talking with the folks at InfoComm India right now. They're planning for the end of November. Mike, there are different reports here in the States. The Wall Street Journal has been reporting that there are 2 pharmaceutical companies that are getting ready to start trials of a vaccine 1st of July. The UK reported the other day there is a steroid that they've been using to treat people who already contracted COVID-19. You look at reports like that, and you look at the other association shows that both you and Dave are a part of and responsible for. Are you looking at this, and are you optimistic towards the end of the year and into the next year? CES, the CTA has already said CES is happening regardless, come hell or high water. That's going to happen in Vegas in January. So we do all that, and all of us are planning for various things happening in the fall. When you look at that, is that positive to you, or is it still some sort of reservation?
Yeah, that's absolutely positive. And you should actually follow the news that UFI, the Union de Foire Internationals, this is the worldwide organization for trade show organizers. There's another associated organization in the US called CISO, Society of Independent Show Organizers. And we all, this is a very close network. And I can say in some ways I was fortunate to be sitting with these people just before ISE. And it's nice to actually, in some ways, when you end up in a crisis like this, to be together with people of the same ilk and say, hey, I'm not alone. So what actually happens is when we're all going out and saying, we're going to be doing shows, we give confidence not only to each other, but to business. Trade shows are so important to the economy, every economy. And they drive a lot of business for small and large companies everywhere. And this is a very, very strong message going out to actually getting the economy back up and running and creating a different norm, as Dave would say. And it's, we need it. We need it. It was getting on a plane this week and going to another event was quite, it was strange, putting on lace-up shoes for the first time in months. And but actually going somewhere and meeting people I was meeting a lot of the European heads of companies like Panasonic and Samsung, etc. there, and everybody is just dying to have face-to-face events. So every bit of news that goes out, that any event which is actually happening is a big boost and a major vote of confidence about getting the economy back up and running. You saw the release from Barcelona. They will start their events in September. Munich, all over Germany, they've given a commitment to start trade shows back up and running in September. And these are things that I'm saying, if we can actually deliver good shows between now and ISE, we are so confident that we will have a good show. I'm glad to see the messages coming from CES. You'll see messages coming from us as well, because we're all very keen. It's not just, yes, we have a business to run and we want our business to be successful, but we also look at our industry and realize that we are a core part to it. And it's not just us, it's a whole whole world of this around of what's going on, and we all rely on each other. And these are good messages.
Well, and you guys in your release talk about partnering with the local hospital and local medical staff as well, making sure that you've done everything you can. Dave, similar question. Do you look at these reports and go, yes, absolutely, this is absolutely positive? With the exception of a possible second wave, and we can talk about that as the year goes on. But we are sitting here in the middle of June. Incredible leaps have been made in the last 3 months since the last time we all got together. That has to be a positive. And as you talked with other business leaders, Sean Wargo this week talked about the forecast. The information you guys are getting back from your dealers and your members. Is this a positive as we're heading into the second half of the year?
Yeah, of course. I think at the forefront of all of the decisions, and this is another one of those cliches that you have to make sure you're not saying as a cliche, is the health and safety of the exhibitors, the attendees. Not only are we making progress on how to treat and or potentially develop a vaccine for this disease, but we're also learning more and more about how to reduce transmission, how to have gatherings that are safe. Mike alluded to the Oktoberfest, and a trade show is a controlled environment, right? You can control who's there, when they're there, what direction they're heading in. All of that will contribute to an environment of safety. People are going to go through a progression of being allowed to go out, being willing to go out, and wanting to go out, right? And they're all going to go through that progression at different paces. People in my family are going through that in different paces. I would jumped on that plane with Mike yesterday without a second of hesitation, but there are people that are very close to me that wouldn't even dream of doing that. And that's okay. And I think as we look forward with these trade shows, I mean, this is a huge industry, the exhibition industry. I think hundreds of billions, if not $1 trillion of revenue and economic impact from this industry. We're gonna figure it out, but we're gonna need to make sure that we are letting all the people feel safe, right?
Yeah.
And I think some of that's going to involve giving them an ability to curate their experience, right? Some people will be happy to be in the crowd. Other people maybe are going to want to come in and see the products and meet with people at 7 o'clock in the morning during restricted time or later in the evening. Some people will make a decision to go to a social event. Other people will make a decision to minimize their socialization. I think as with all challenges, it's going to give us opportunities to innovate, but every positive piece of news about COVID is exciting for me, for any of us that are in this industry. I mean, let's look at the reality. The vast majority of AVIXA's revenue is through trade shows, which is gathering 50 to 100,000 people together in a building. And so would I love it if this disease went away tomorrow? Absolutely. Is it going to? No. But that's what smart people do then, is start to figure out How do you deliver what is economically irreplaceable and incredibly important, while most importantly ensuring that you're delivering it in a safe environment? And we're going to, as Mike said, I mean, in fact, I just was talking to somebody earlier today that, I'm glad I've got ISE before I've got InfoComm. And we have Beijing before we have Mumbai, and we have Mumbai before we have ISE. And each of those, yes, are in different environments, different situations, different progression, but each of them will teach us. And then there will be hundreds of events that we aren't associated with that will take place between now and then.
I mean, just to echo on that, and what Dave says, Tim, is that the nice thing about this industry, firstly, we're in a really good environment with the group of InfoComm shows, that we share information and we're sharing the best experiences of every single show to make sure the next one is even better. And that's even before COVID, we've been doing this. We sit together and do this. Dave sits there and he's in that meeting as well. And he says he treats us like, siblings, because we're all having our little arguments. But he controls it and makes sure, our dad there takes care of us and runs the meeting. But more so, this whole industry, the AV industry, but also the trade show industry, is sharing information, because we're all very keen. It's actually really fantastic to see that everyone is sharing information and not trying to actually keep it for themselves, because they realize the culmination of improvements is just going to be better for everyone long term. We've put some new things out there. What we're working with FERA. You mentioned about the risk management study they did with Aon and the University Clinic of Barcelona. And just first to look and see what are the risks, and then based on that, how can they mitigate these? And they've shared this information. They've worked with others to actually see which are the best practices. And everybody, it's just going across Europe. So, no one's actually saying, okay, that's mine, I'm keeping it, I'm not going to share it so I have an advantage. Everyone's sharing it, and it's good. So yes, I am very confident that we will have a show in February. There will be an ISE. As Dave mentioned, there will be people who have concerns and may want to come at different times. And what we're learning and looking at is saying, how do we satisfy them? How do we make them feel comfortable and keep the business going, and give them and our exhibitors the experiences they require and the contact to customers that they need?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's actually a good place for us to transition. You gentlemen, go ahead and hang out and listen to the folks who you'll be serving and servicing here in the next few months. First and foremost, Corey Schaefer from QSC. Welcome, ma'am.
Hey, good to be here, especially this week. It was a good week.
It was a good week. Mr. Jeremy Caldera from IAS. Welcome, sir.
Hello, everyone.
And last but not least, the bane of my existence. Matt Scott from London, Ontario. How are you, sir?
That's almost hurtful, but I get it.
It's not my intro.
Yeah,
I know,
that's
right?
true. It's not.
That's why
true.
I'm shocked.
Well,
I'm great. How are you?
You were on a panel with me. Caldera wasn't. But I did learn something this week. Do you know what the word caldera means? Your last name actually has a meaning.
Well, I do. I don't think,
I have so many.
It is the crater left after a volcano erupts. Do you know how I know that? Because of trivia night with InfoComm trivia this week.
Yeah.
InfoComm trivia this week. That was one of the questions. Was what is the name of the crater? Never mind. It was stupid. But I was told I had to work that into the show this week. So there we go.
It was supposed to be me that did that, Tim.
But you forgot. So I wasn't going to punk you out there. So.
Well, actually, for your next bit of trivia, I can give you, mine is not as obvious as you think. It's actually an Irish-Scottish name, and it's the man from the Fens. Because then there's guys who work getting the torf for whiskey. It was black, and they'd be sweating and doing this, and their faces were black as a result.
Okay.
So more trivia for you.
So no more trivia. So we had trivia this week, right? We had happy hour we're recording this on Friday. We had happy hour last night. Corey, I'm going to start with you from the exhibitor standpoint, but also from an attendee standpoint. How was this week? How was InfoComm Connected? How was virtual InfoComm for you?
So I think I would have to speak more as an attendee this week than an exhibitor, even though we did exhibit. But today's point about this is new to all of us, and we're learning a lot. And I would say from the exhibitor side, we need to learn this because we have more events this year that are virtual, and we need to know how to do it better. And so as a company, we're going to analyze how it went for us. We have not yet done that, and kind of do a postmortem, because we didn't have nearly as many meetings as we obviously typically would in person, et cetera. But again, that's we're learning our way through this, and we need to learn how to do this, because I think the future is going to be, I hope it is, a hybrid, right? So in person as well as online. And I saw a lot of that dialogue happening in the chat windows. As an attendee, I really love the experience being virtual, because I was able to pick and choose and attend events that I wouldn't normally get to do become an exhibitor, right? And so your schedule's so busy, and the hours were extended, and then having things recorded, and in Dave's keynote, having him mention my favorite CEO and the Avengers, and the board fireside chat, right? Being able to spend that time with the board members and getting to hear them as real humans, right? And the virtual 5K, so learning what things, work well. The happy hour last night, going into these small chats, it still allowed us to feel connected. I think there were a lot of really positive things, and I applaud the association for putting it together. And I think we as an exhibitor need to figure out how best to do this for us. And I would say that QSC, we had an experience, but we definitely need to improve our experience.
Okay. All right. Jeremy, as someone who has taught at InfoComm before, but also as an attendee and somebody, you being the head of IAS, trying to get your folks in and out of sessions and getting education and getting them connected to the latest products being announced. How was it for you guys this week?
I mean, we enjoyed it. Kind of like what Corey said, it was really nice as an attendee to be able to just jump into any session that I wanted to jump into, because I mean, although you can get a package in Las Vegas where you can go to any of these sessions, sometimes they're at opposite ends of hallways or buildings or wherever, and it's hard to get from one to the next. For here, you just backspace, click enter, and you're there, right? So from that perspective, it was really great. I was able to get some of my team to get trainings that they normally would not be able to get as fast or as efficiently. So, I do see some benefits to there being some hybrid stuff in the future, just, as an attendee. And as a presenter, I did a piece yesterday. The challenging part for our group yesterday, and it was the business case for delivering AV experiences. That was the thing that I was speaking at, right? And we were originally a 4-hour training session, and we had to do it in 30 minutes, right? Well, you can't do what we had planned in 4 hours and 30 minutes, right? The conversation gets started, you answer a few questions, you're done, right? So for us, it was a challenge to just figure out how to maximize that time so that, the people attending our session would get the most out of it. And then maybe, stimulate the idea that, we can expand on this in the future at the next InfoComm or the next trade show or somewhere else. And we can kind of bring that to the masses and people. But to the same time, we probably had more attendees in our session than we would have normally had at the show too, right? Because the rooms only fit so many people, right? So there's a lot of wins, although it was very different. The downfall of it being shorter, but there were some definite benefits to it.
I mentioned the fact. Go ahead, Corey.
My feet feel a lot better this week. Than they
That's true too.
Do.
My liver too.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
My pants don't fit any better than they usually would. So because I'm sitting home and my wife's cooking. Matt Caldera mentioned the fact that your sessions got shorter. When we first started this conversation, we were doing a session on the hidden gems of the 10x10s. I think we had an hour when we first started having this conversation, and we had 15 minutes yesterday, you, me, and Chris Neto. And you just say hi to Chris Neto, and you've already burnt 15 minutes. So beyond the fact that our time got more condensed, but hopefully the content got better. What else did you experience this week coming out of InfoComm Connected?
I think the hard thing about these events is we don't really have a benchmark. So you don't really know what you're comparing it to, or you don't have something that is an accurate representation to go up against. We're comparing this to, anywhere from a day to a week in Vegas or Orlando with 40,000 of our closest friends hobnobbing and walking around and breaking bread and doing all the fun things that we get to do when we're in person. And digitally, that's just really hard to translate to. So I think the event came off flawlessly that I saw. So kudos to Dave and his whole team there. But it is different. It is very hard to, in the case of our presentation, sit down and burn through what could have easily been an hour, mainly because you just put the three of us in a room, so you're gonna get an hour. But to burn through that and try to stay on topic with what, in my case, I was talking about, trying to follow the chat. So I kind of am reading the room, if you will. All of those things make it very, very difficult to achieve what you think you're going to provide, because you're used to doing that in a public setting, either just face to face even. It's tough, but all in all, the sessions I attended were great. The happy hours were fantastic. The trade show floor side I found to be a little interesting, but again, what do you do? It's not the same as walking in to Corey's booth and saying, "Hi, Corey," and sitting down and chatting. It's very hard to do that until we, decide to go to like a Ready Player One situation. And we're not there, and it probably doesn't make fiscal sense to even attempt that. But all in all, it was great. My biggest drawback, I would say, is that because I wasn't in Orlando or Vegas, it's very hard to pull away from work. And it's very hard to, as much as it was in my calendar as, hey, this entire week is going to be InfoComm. It wasn't. I got stuck having to go see clients and deal with things and deal with kids. All of those things just make it a very different experience, but it was a good one.
Well, and go ahead, Chris.
So I agree with Matt, the fact that, we have to learn how to do a virtual event. So even blocking out the time so that your regular business isn't encroaching on your time to do this event. And when you're online doing it, I literally had a consultant call my cell phone because he's trying to get into our virtual booth, not figuring it out, because we have to think about, for us as an exhibitor, it's different and change is hard, but also for our attendees, change is hard, right? And so we have to guide them. I think if I could do it over again, I'm going to think about, okay, how do we prep them in how to do this and to get to us and do some education there. I mean, I can see a lot of blogs coming out now, like how to do a virtual trade show, right? As an exhibitor, as an attendee, etc. Like we've had all these blogs about how to work from home, so I think we're going to start seeing more of that. And as an exhibitor, we learned a lot. We learned a lot this week of how we'll do these other events coming up in the next few months.
I'm just writing down that blog idea just for the record. So, Mr. Caldera, from your standpoint, both from an attendee as also somebody who did a session, what is one thing that you were like, this is a home run, and what's one area that you can give to Dave to take back to the team and say, this is an idea for you guys to maybe do a little bit different?
Well, I don't know if it's take back to Dave to do different. I would say that that might fall on the exhibitors, right? But I think it's a learning curve because no one knows how to do the virtual trade show thing, right? It's how do we make that interactivity with the exhibitors, engaging, right? How do you answer questions? How do you see product? How do you, I think the innovation that we're going to see on that front would be where I think a good focus will be, right? Of course, something to help you on how to guide you on to get into things would be easy as well. From a session standpoint, I think that was a home run because, like you said, lots of people that would normally attend can attend. It's very easy to jump around and to go from one to the next to the next. I think that was a definite home run.
Yeah, absolutely. Matt, what's one area that you think that was absolutely just stellar?
Again, just the way that the community came together, which by having the matchmaking side, by having so many of the Avixa folks really active on social media, really helped because when you get into the matchmaking side, it's still contained to that environment. When you get on a chat in a session, it's still contained to that environment, so you can participate while you're in that room. But it was also great to participate in that room and see other people on Twitter talking about that room, or what have you. To echo Jeremy's point a little bit, the one thing that I would have loved to see, and again, we all know that we're doing this from scratch, but just maybe some of those primer videos of, hey, if you're trying to join a session, this is what you do, with the fancy, putting Aaron on video walking through doing it. And maybe you did, and I just couldn't find it. But those things are always really, really helpful to see. But again, I'm super, super impressed with how well this was, dare I say, pulled off in the short kind of 2-3 months.
Yeah, that was impressive. That just the span of time to put that together.
Yeah, to get something that was this polished, and maybe there was a ton of issues on the back end that we'll never know about, but on the front end, we didn't see it. And that was, I know even for myself, I had one minor issue where I couldn't get into something, and I shot out an email thinking that I'm not going to hear from them for, till today. And within 2 minutes, I got an email back. Yeah, go here. If you have trouble, we'll do it for you. I'm like, that is fantastic. And again, as in that role as a presenter, to have that peace of mind that I could shoot out, say, hey, I'm confused with something, and instantly get feedback. I don't know if I've had feedback that quick if we had been in Las Vegas in a room.
That's a good point. And I will put my 2 cents in, and I don't know, I do know how to recreate this in a hybrid event, but one of the things that I found fascinating and a nice surprise was the engagement in the chat room. Both from Megan Dutta and I, my buddy from SCN, her and I did a session on Almost Famous, the technologies that are coming up, and then Matt and Neto and I did a session. Both of those chat rooms were absolutely fantastic. The feedback that we got, everything from Emil making little pictures of me and Megan, with little thought bubbles, those were fantastic. But just seriously, the feedback we were getting, and the chatter. As a presenter and somebody who's presented at InfoComm before and ISC, you don't get that from the audience, right? People are pretty respectful. They're going to sit there. They're going to listen to you, and at the end they might ask questions. This was going on while we're presenting, and I think that part of it actually added to the experience, both from a presenter standpoint, but also as an attendee, as I attended some of the other sessions. But Matt,
one of the things that I really hope doesn't get pushed to the wayside or overlooked going forward as we hopefully get into excuse me, more in-person events again, is just that recorded aspect. Because as we've all known, you get out on a show floor and you've got a limited amount of time. You're never going to get to every session you want to see, let alone even usually half the sessions you want to see. The manner in which these ones are going to be made available, at least for a while, is fantastic. And I know there's logistical issues with making that happen in a live setting, but anything we can do to continue to just make information available is going to be fantastic.
Absolutely. And these will be up until August, I believe. Go ahead, Mike.
I mean, just one point. There is no substitute for face-to-face events. And that's what's going to happen in the future. But what we're all learning from this is actually adding a digital element to do exactly as what Jeremy's saying there. Oh, sorry, Matt, it's there afterwards for people to engage with, bringing people in afterwards to actually see a session and engage in chat and discuss it. Because when you're there, you may have missed it, but someone says, well, did you miss that one? You should have seen that. And I go home and I go online and get that experience, can actually discuss it with people. So what we've really learned is that we need to actually add this element to shows in the future. Yeah. To what extent? That's still a learning curve we're going through. Of how much we actually add to it. But certainly we have to add elements of this to the shows to enhance the experience for the people who are there and the people who may not be able to come there.
Yeah, for various reasons, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm going to layer on it just for a second. I don't think we learned that we need to have the content online or available. I think we've always known that. I think what we've learned is that our fears about doing that are no longer justified. The little secret that you don't hear is the reason that show organizers don't put that content online is because they're afraid you won't come if it's online. And I think what we've figured out is you're going to come, and you're coming for a lot other reasons than just to sit in the session. As much as being in the session is important to you, there's a lot of other value you're extracting from physically being present in the show. And so we don't have to do either or anymore. We can do both. That to me is, I think, the real lesson here.
That right there is going to be a great place to end it. I thank you all so much for your time. Corey Schaefer, thank you. How do people get a hold of you or QSC?
QSC.com, Corey Schaefer on all the socials.
All right,
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, thank you. Mr. Caldera, thank you, sir.
Yeah, glad to be here.
How do people get a hold of you or IAS?
IAStechnology.net or Jeremy_Caldera at the Twitter, and I don't know, whatever. You can Google, you'll find it.
It means collapsed volcano, just for the record.
That will come up in a Google search.
Mr. Blackman, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Well, you can find us at iseurope.org, and if you want to shoot something to me at Twitter, it's IAC_Mike, or just Google me.
You should Google him. He has the best stories, just for the record. I've said that for years. Mr. Labuscus, thank you, sir, and thank you for hosting us this week.
It's my pleasure, Tim. Always great to be here. And we were joking that I'm starting to hang out with you every Friday, it seems like.
I'm perfectly okay with that, just for the record. Joey Lloyd may not be, but I'm okay with it.
It's vixa.org. I am tweeting at David Labuscus, and if you want to email me or call me, it's pretty easily to find me.
All right, very good. And Mr. Scott, thank you, sir.
Thank you. You can find me on Twitter at Matt D. Scott, here at AVNation, or at OmegaAudioVideo.com.
All right, very good. For me, don't follow me on the Twitters because I'm still celebrating the 1-year anniversary of the Blues beating the Bruins to win their first ever Stanley Cup 1 year ago. Just for the record, we were all in Orlando. I was in Orlando. And we go by the website. Lenore, Elaine, and our fantastic staff have put together a brand spanking new website. I'm very proud of it, but I didn't do a darn thing except for say yes. But they did a lot of work, to check that out. Also, while you're there, check out our underwriter section. These are the folks who help us financially, help us bring you AVWeek and our coverage of InfoComm. And coming up, CDA and QSC is one of those, and we thank them for their support. Also, check out our brand spanking new newsletter. You can subscribe for that at the new website. So all that and more at avnation.tv, avnation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. That's all the time we have for AV Week.